Hello and welcome to this UniTaster On Demand event today. My name is John Sheik. I'm here from UniTasterDays, and what we do with these events is introduce students to studying different subjects at university. And the subject we're going to be looking at today is biochemistry. I am delighted to be joined by Dr. Lacey, joining us from Sheffield, Hallam University, just to provide a guide to what biochemistry is, why you might be interested in studying it, maybe a few application tips and an overview of potential careers as well. But what I wanted to do to start is just come to Mel straight away and say hello, give Mel a chance to say hello to you. But just to get a grasp of why Mel originally studied biochemistry. So I noticed, Mel, when I was looking at your profile, you studied biochemistry yourself at uni. So it'd be lovely to hear just why you picked it.
Hi, thank you very much, John, and thank you for that introduction. So yeah, hi, I'm Mel, everybody. I'm from Sheffield, Hallam University, and I did study biochemistry. It is true. So biochemistry, as a course, offers has a very special place in my heart. So yeah, why did I study biochemistry? I think that it's really hard, isn't it, to choose your subject that you study at university. And I really liked chemistry, and I really like biology. And I was looking through prospectuses and there was biochemistry, and that was like, it just seemed like I could do a little bit of both of those and keep both of them up. So that's why I chose it. Yeah, I just really like both subjects. I didn't want to let either of them go. So yeah, that's why I did biochemistry.
Thanks, Mel. And now working in that area and obviously delivering lectures to students on the subject as well. So that's great to see. So first question is just for the students and school groups that are watching, just to get a grasp of why they might be interested in studying biochemistry. So if you just don't mind giving us a few reasons why a student you think might want to consider studying biochemistry at university.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so biochemistry does have its sort of feet in both the biological sciences and that chemistry as well. So I think in terms of why a student would want to study it, I think that there's a couple of reasons, aren't there, why students choose to study courses. Firstly is sort of careers and where they want to go. And I know we're going to chat about that later on, aren't we? So there might be a particular career that someone wants to do, and biochemistry might fit really nicely into that sort of career path. And sometimes people study courses because they just really love the subject and they want to take that further. So I'm going to talk about that now, and then we can talk about the careers later on, if that's all right. So in terms of sort of like why you'd study it as a subject, I think that yeah, I'm completely biased, aren't I? I think that biochemistry is a really beautiful subject because you look at how things work in a really, really detailed way. And that might be like how a cell works, or it might be how a protein works, or it might be how DNA is replicated or translated or transcribed. But understanding sort of the real detail of those processes, I really enjoy personally. Yeah, I think that's what I think it's. Yeah, and I think as well it's very applicable to lots of different things, because when you get down to it, a lot of things have their roots in biochemistry, and I think that it means that you understand things in a really detailed way, and I think that's like a really positive thing to be able to do.
Thanks, Mel. So say a student, right? So students decided they want to study biochemistry and they're kind of locked on that subject, which you might be pleased to hear. What they say, they might have been at school and studied, say, biology and perhaps might have studied chemistry at school as well, but perhaps don't have a massive grasp in terms of how things change at university and what they might do at university if they study biochemistry. Do you mind just giving an overview of what a student might expect? Obviously, you can only speak from the perspective of Sheffield Hallam, but just give an overview of what a student might do on a biochemistry course.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that biochemistry courses, wherever you choose to study, will have a decent lab component. And those lab skills will range from everything from, like the basics of how you prepare. You might have some microbiology in there, you might have some cell biology in there, some chemistry in there, but I'd expect you to do a fairly decent amount of laboratory skills throughout your degree, because obviously it is a lab-based degree. Because it's biochemistry, expect some like numeracy tutorials, like looking at enzyme rates and things like that. Don't worry if you don't have an A level in maths. It's fine. Like, people do start with that sort of GCSE level and take it, because it is very applied, so it's very sort of specific maths. In terms of what your lectures are going to be on and the subjects you're going to study, like obviously there's some core things that I'd sort of expect on most biochemistry courses. So things like that translation and transcription and how enzymes work and looking at enzyme active sites and things like this. But then the rest of the degree, I think, sort of depends on where you study. And this was going to be one of the things I say later on when we're sort of talking about hints and tips, which is actually look at the module titles of the place where you're thinking of applying, because actually biochemistry degrees do vary from institute to institute, depending on sort of what they cover and whereabouts sort of in the range between biology and chemistry they sit. So, for example, at Sheffield Hallam, our biochemistry degree is very multidisciplinary. So in your first year, you'll study human physiology and anatomy, because obviously as a society, we're very selfish. We spend lots of time and money thinking about disease and how we can make people healthier. So there's lots of jobs in, you know, keeping people healthy and preventing disease and treating disease. So if you understand what a liver is, how it works and where that is in your body, you're a better biochemist, aren't you? We do molecular biology. We do microbiology, because we use microbes a lot in biochemistry to make things for us. We use them in biotechnology, so you need to have a good grasp of that. And then we do some organic chemistry as well. So then in your second year, we keep some of those main themes, but then you can choose whether or not you go down a more bio-y angle and take some more cell biology perhaps, or you can choose whether you go down a more chemistry angle and choose to do a little bit more chemistry. So you can sort of choose sort of the flavour of your biochemistry degree as you go through, but obviously some of the universities might be more bio-y, some of the universities might be more chemistry-y. So I'd really recommend looking at the module choices. But yes, a really nice breadth of things to start off with, and then getting more biochemistry as you go along.
Thank you, Mel. And you kind of touched on two things we're going to cover later on in terms of careers and also application tips. But if I come to kind of applications first, so a student's interested in studying biochemistry at university, is there anything that you'd like to see in a student, or that you'd like to see in a student's application that you think might be handy for students when they're thinking about going ahead and applying to university?
Yeah, so I think first off, so we would like students to have studied A-levels in biology and chemistry. We accept A-levels that, we accept students that have done BTECs with applied science BTECs as well, but we have to just be really careful that they've done enough chemistry modules. So if you're thinking about applying for biochemistry, just make sure that the subjects that you have done sort of line up. Or if you're thinking about it, you know, at 16 and you're like, I want to do biochemistry, but I want to do a BTEC, that's absolutely fine. That you could, like, we accept students with that portfolio, but just make sure you've done the right BTEC modules or units, I think they're called. I spoke about maths. If you are umming and ahhing about maths and you've got your heart set on biochemistry, maths is a great subject to take, because it just means that you've just got, so your maths is stronger, and that's a really nice foundation to have. Obviously you don't need to have it, but if you're like, oh, should I take maths or should I not? Yes, take the maths. We just want people to come and succeed on our courses. So we just want you to want to do it and have enough understanding of the subject to be able to succeed when you get here, is what we're looking for in our students. We want you to like what you do, so we want you to be interested in the subject, and we want you to have enough understanding, which is why we ask for that biology and that chemistry at A-level, or with the BTEC we ask for sort of those units that have been covered.
Thanks, Mel. That makes perfect sense. And then the final thing I wanted to look at is just careers. And you touched about careers and, you know, different paths and looking at, you know, maybe the human side of it. But it'd just be really useful to get an idea of what a degree in biochemistry might lead to. Obviously, in your case, it led to a career in academia, but to get a grasp, as well as academia, what it might lead to.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said before, like, biochemistry gives you a really good, insightful way of looking at the world, because you do look at things in very small details. And I think a lot of employers really like that. Like, I always take a really reductionist approach when I do things. And what that means is I look at things in a very biochemical way. So I like, this is the whole picture. If I take this out, what happens? If I take this out, what happens? And I think of things in very small detail. So in terms of careers, and I'm speaking both obviously from my cohort of biochemists, as well as like the cohort that we see that go through SHU at Sheffield Hallam University, just a really broad range of careers. So there are people that go into cancer studies. and do cancer research. We have people who do all kinds of disease, nutrition. We have people who work in pharmacology, so looking at making drugs. We have people who work in patent law. We have people who work in the NHS, being chemists for the NHS, as well as, like, obviously patent law isn't a wet work anymore, is it? That's looking at chemistry from a sort of a intellectual property perspective. And we have people who go into teaching, we have people who go into recruitment, into drug sales, really, really, really broad. So biochemistry doesn't pigeonhole you, I don't think. I think because you are on that balance between, you know, the biologies and the chemistries, it is quite broad, the things you go into. We also have quite a few people who go into work in analytical chemistry. So that's using like analytical techniques to look at, you know, drugs. And some of those people work in forensics, you know, like when people, you know, like, is this heroin? You're like, I don't know, let's find out, kind of thing. Yeah, so we do a lot of analytical chemistry in our courses, because obviously they're really good employability skills. So yeah.
Thank you, Mel. And a big thanks again to Dr. Mel Lacey joining us from Sheffield Hallam University for this introduction to biochemistry. Mel, really appreciate your time today. Hope you're well, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, John. And for everybody who's looking at this video, I just want to say, I hope this has been helpful, and good luck with your applications and your journeys into higher education.